Welcome to RelapsePreventionPlan.net's free online rehab lessons. We believe that it's never too late to learn to prevent relapse. Welcome to this presentation on how we think impacts how we act. You will learn to describe how thoughts create emotions and impact actions, to describe how your interpretation of events affects your rehab experience, and to describe how motivation works and why homework is compulsory. The greatest revolution in our generation is that of human beings, who, by changing the inner attitudes of their minds, can change the outer aspects of their lives. What doesn't cause relapse? Leading experts in relapse prevention found relapse is not generally triggered by physical cravings. So what does cause relapse? Relapse is a response to stress, anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, depression, social pressure to use, and interpersonal conflicts. We create our emotions. How we interpret the events in our lives controls the intensity and frequency of our feelings of anxiety, fear, anger, frustration, or depression. We can learn to manage and change how we interpret, respond, and feel about events. What can you do about it? Interpersonal conflicts are increased or decreased by the actions we take based on our interpretations, our emotions that result from our interpretations of events. We can increase our skill in interpreting the events in our lives more accurately and by managing interpersonal conflicts. When you are feeling upset, you think negative thoughts. If you feel sad or depressed, you may think everything is hopeless. I'm such a loser. I'll never feel good again. If you feel anxious and panicky, you may think, what if I lose control and crack up? During an argument with your partner, you may tell yourself, that SOB, what a jerk. They never really cared about me. Thinking pessimistically about yourself and your world leads to despair. Negative thoughts can be exaggerated, distorted, and illogical, yet they are deceptively realistic. So you believe things are really as bad as you think they are. We all succumb at times to feelings of doubt and despair. The relationship between the way you think and the way you feel. It is not the actual events, but your interpretations that result in mood changes. So the world is a series of positive, neutral, and negative events. You interpret the events with a series of thoughts and internal dialogue. This creates your mood. Your feelings are created by your thoughts and not the actual events. The major key to understanding your mood is your thoughts. Your emotions result entirely from the way you look at things. It is a neurological fact that before you can experience any event, you must process it with your mind and give it meaning. So you have to check the accuracy of your interpretation of events. If your understanding of what is happening is accurate, your emotions will be a valid response. If your perception is distorted, your emotional response will be abnormal and extreme. Your thoughts create your emotions. Unpleasant feelings indicate that you are thinking something negative and believing it. Your emotions follow your thoughts as surely as a baby duck follows its mother. But the fact that baby ducks follow faithfully along doesn't prove the mother knows where she is going. If you are still being hurt by an event that happened to you at 12, it is the thought that is hurting you now. Self-defeating thoughts. For example, there's no point in doing anything. I'll probably fail if I try. Lead to self-defeating emotions. You feel tired, bored, discouraged, guilty, helpless, and overwhelmed. Self-defeating thoughts also lead to self-defeating actions. You avoid potentially satisfying activities, people, and work. And there are consequences of this lethargy cycle. You become isolated from friends. You are convinced you are actually inadequate. So you sink deeper and deeper into an unmotivated state of paralysis. This is a vicious cycle. The lethargy cycle is: 1. Self-defeating negative thoughts make you feel miserable. 2. Painful emotions in turn convince you that your distorted, pessimistic thoughts are actually valid. 3. Self-defeating thoughts and actions reinforce each other in a circular manner. 4. The unpleasant consequences of doing nothing make your problems even worse. And 5. Negative, distorted thoughts lead to inaction and less action. So, motivation and action. How does motivation work? Action comes first. First, you take action, which gives you more motivation, which in turn leads you to take more action. Completing our free online relapse prevention lessons. Your coming to our website was an action. Whether you take more action and become more motivated depends on how you interpret being here. Thoughts such as, it won't help, there's no hope, these people don't know what they are doing, I always relapse, I don't need to change, leads to the lethargy cycle and less action. And what happens now depends significantly on you. Thoughts lead to emotions and to interpretation. Accurate thoughts are thoughts like, the online presentations have reliable information. At least I'm not using. I can make friends. I can help myself to learn something helpful to me. And I'm tired of using. I'm worried. These type of thoughts leads to learning, which leads to action, then more motivation, and then more action. Distorted thinking or real life. Realistic problems can lead to realistic responses. Excuse me. Such as a family member dies, and then sadness results. Valid thoughts create emotions that add depth to your life. Emotions based on distortion create feelings of fear, anger, hopelessness, and self-pity. Distorted thinking is ultimately self-defeating. Distorted thinking is exaggerated thinking. A common example of distorted thinking is called all or none thinking, black or white thinking. Distorted thinking can become an automatic interpretation of all events in your life. Examples of all or nothing thinking used as automatic filters. This program is no good and I'll never get any better. People should never disagree with me. They should respect my views. I should always have something to say. My world should be the way I want it to be, and it never is. Relapse is inevitable. I will always have to be afraid that I will use. No one can truly understand me. I have a right to be sad or angry with the people around me. My life is hell. The same event can result in different interpretations and emotions. For example, the event is Sally gets laid off. The thought is, I'm no good. The emotions that result from her interpretation are sadness and shame. And so the action she takes is that she starts to drink again. Bill gets laid off, but his thought is, it's all management's fault. They're incompetent jerks. The emotions that he feels because of his thinking are anger and bitterness. And so the action he takes is that Bill starts to drink heavily. However, let's take a look when Phil gets laid off. He thought, that was really tough and I kept my cool and my head held high. I'm going to miss the people and the money. His emotions were pride and sadness. The action is, Phil spends more time in the evenings playing softball and exercising, and probably looking for a new job. So let's do an exercise. Think of a negative event that has been bugging you for a really long time, such as dropping out of school, being fired, getting stood up, getting divorced. All these events are examples of memories or problems we may hold on to for years. Using your worksheet, or just take a plain piece of paper, write a brief description of an event that whenever you think of it, you feel sad, angry, anxious, ashamed, depressed, or worried. Pause the presentation if you need more time to write it down. Now, when you feel negative, should you change the way you feel? Take 5 minutes now and pause the presentation to write your answers to these questions. How long have I been feeling this way? Am I doing something constructive about the problem, or am I simply brooding and avoiding it? Are my thoughts and feelings realistic? Am I making myself unhappy about a problem that is beyond my control? Am I avoiding a problem and denying that I'm really upset about it? Are my expectations for the world realistic? Are my expectations for myself realistic? Am I feeling hopeless? Am I experiencing a loss of self-esteem? Deciding when you're tired of feeling bad about an event or problem is up to you. Taking action and changing the way you feel about an event requires the coping skills taught in the online presentation, suggested resources, and of course our book, Make Your Last Relapse the Last. Make no mistake, developing skills requires participation, time, and repetition. You need to be an active participant in the skills training process and address your real problems. The more passive you are, the less likely you will use the new skills when you complete our book and lessons. Make lesson activities a priority so you become motivated through action rather than waiting for a feeling to move them to action. All learning starts with information being stored in your brain. When you learn anything, you first use current brain connections to store information. And after a brief period of practice, such as cramming for a test, it is relatively easy to temporarily improve skills because you have strengthened existing brain synapse connections. These connections are rapidly reversed, and memory of the learning fades, though. So to truly master new skills, you need continued practice. Maintaining improvement and making a skill permanent requires the slow, steady work that forms new connections. Sustained practice solidifies learning because it goes beyond strengthening existing neuronal connections in the brain. It actually creates brand new structures, new neuronal connections, and synapses. More permanent change takes up to 6 months of training and practice. Daily training leads to dramatic short-term changes, and continued training leads to more permanent changes. Coping skills have a reason. Each new coping skill in the presentations is accompanied by slides that present the rationale or evidence in the addiction research field. This is provided so you will know the importance of applying the skill and its usefulness in dealing with the issues you will face. Coping skills require repetition and practice just like any skill. As with any newly learned behaviors, coping skills are unlikely to be retained or used if the learning is limited to a single session or exercise. A lot of review and practice is needed to develop a sense of mastery of each skill, and to increase the likelihood of you using it successfully in real-life situations. All session material is reviewed periodically to assist you to consolidate your learning. Continue to occasionally review the material and obtain new resources to add to your knowledge. Remember, it is never too late to become what you might have been. Here are the references for this presentation. In this presentation, you've learned to describe how thoughts create emotions and impact actions. You've learned to describe how your interpretation of events affects your rehab experience. And you've learned to describe how motivation works and why homework activities are compulsory. Don't forget to complete our free downloadable workbook, Make Your Last Relapse the Last, from relapsepreventionplan.net. Remember, this video is not a substitute for proper medical care and consultation with your physician or qualified healthcare professional. Don't ignore professional advice or delay seeking treatment based on the information in this video or on this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. You can do it. We believe in you. Don't give up.